Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Once Upon a Time, as well as the latest episode of American Gods. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include the time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So for example, if you want to hear what I had to say about this week's episode of Once Upon a Time, you can skip to what I had to say about this week's episode of American Gods. But the first thing we're going to talk about is this week's episode of Once Upon a Time. Obviously, this was the musical episode, a very good musical episode, and what I liked about it very much, obviously, really liked the songs, but I also appreciate the fact is that they were very, fourth wall breaking, because even, when Snow White first wakes up, she's like, okay, why am I singing, why is everything I'm saying in the form of a song, and the same thing to Prince Charming's being like, man, everything's coming out sounding so good in song and stuff like that. It's just a beautiful thing, and then Regina's also doing it, too, and she, obviously the show's still keeping its nature. It's not like it 100% Disney-fied or whatever. It was like, no, we still keep what, makes the show, because the moment, she starts singing, she has two guards behind her, she immediately, snaps their necks with her magic. It's like, okay, that's okay. I even love at one point is it gets to, because obviously everyone in the kingdom is singing, because of, this, the wish that Snow made, because this is all trailing back to, oh yeah, this is, before, Regina's about to enact her curse and everything, and they, Emma hasn't been born yet, and they want to, try and stop Regina, so that's what this song's all about. And even at one point, Regina goes to, Rumple for help, and it's like, okay, I need you to, tell me how to fix this, so start singing, and he goes, you thought the Dark One was going to start singing? I was like, you got me. I really appreciated that a lot. That was so good. I also loved hooks too, just because once again breaking the fourth wall and everything. Snow White's like, you want revenge? Revenge for what? Wait for the second verse, love. I'm like, shut up! I love it. That's so cool. I also appreciate it when it came down to Regina and Snow White and Prince Charming. It's kind of like both their songs clashing. Obviously the representation of that, and also the little bit the story part that Zelina played in it. The fact is that obviously she's listening in and everything. She's like, oh yeah, this is my chance to prove to Regina, or more so than anyone, to Rumple, he picked the wrong people. I forgot that was a thing too. She wasn't just trying to show her mom, she was trying to show, she's trying to show everyone, but in more particular, it's her mom and also Rumple. I forgot about that being a thing. Because I was wondering how they were going to implement it, because obviously everything connected to the song, the musical aspect of it, is all taking place in the past in the Enchanted Forest, like I said, before Emma was born. It's weird when you actually think about it. I had never thought about that until now, because of the whole, immortality thing that comes with being, not from this world and everything. It's she's technically Emma's marrying a dude that's super old compared to her, because he was already his roughly this age when Emma wasn't even born yet. It's weird when you think about it. That's kind of weird. In a sense, Killian helped his future wife without ever even knowing it, in that retrospect. Granted, when it was all said and done, everyone's memories was wiped, because of this, whole situation. Blue had to make sure, because it's the magic, this musical aspect, it's not, the magic wasn't meant to fight Regina, it was meant to be kind of instilled inside of Emma for the fight against, obviously, the darkness, the fight that she's fighting now against Fiona, aka the Black Fairy. Because basically, everything that's transpiring in present day, its effect is that, obviously the whole secret comes out, because obviously, she's about to get Snow White's dress, she's touching it and everything, and it turns black, and then, Fiona pops up. I'm like, dude, I wasn't expecting you to just pop. I had a feeling, obviously you're going to wreck the wedding and stuff like that, because she did go out of her way to be like, oh, tomorrow's Emma's wedding day is the day she'll die or whatever. And I'm like, huh. But it's still, I just didn't expect her to outwardly present herself. It's I guess at this point, it's no, I guess her plan's already enacted. So it's I don't need to hide in, I don't need to hide in the shadows or whatever. And it was oh, Island. This is where everyone found out about Rumple's betrayal and everything. So we never saw Gideon or Belle. So I'm very curious to know, they're probably still in the dark about the whole situation. But, legitimate, the entire episode, I will tell you, I was kind of hoping that basically there'd be a point where Rumple's oh yeah, actually I'm on the good guy's side, I've been playing you this entire time, Mom. There was kind of a line where she was oh yeah, Killian, you're coming here trying to attack my son because you're trying to protect your family. Well, the fact of the matter is I'm here to kind of do this, you're keeping an eye on your family, and I'm doing the same thing, so. But the fact of the matter is, the curse has to be enacted by the fact is that you have to sacrifice someone that you care about. Like, to me, it's like, I don't know. Like, maybe it's because she's so powerful she doesn't have to do that, or maybe she already did and we just don't know it. Because obviously for Regina, like, the heart needed to enact the spell. She ended up using her father Henry's heart to activate the spell. So it's like, I mean, I'm like, I know I'm bouncing around, but like when she activates it at the end, like I guess all that dark fairy dust. I guess once you like, if you get powerful enough magic built up, you don't really have to. You can kind of skate around that, I guess. Because at one point I was like, could that be what this whole thing about Rumpel could really be about? Is it about like getting him like in a position of like, oh yeah, and so you could get his heart or something like that? Could that be what that's about? Because yeah, it has to be the heart of the person you care about most. It's like, I mean, the person that no matter what, I mean, all this started because she cared about her son and loved him, you know, that created this current situation. Side note, something I kept thinking about is like, the fact is, like, it's kind of interesting. She showed no interest in Henry. Like, Henry is her great grandson, but she hasn't, I mean, does she know that though? I mean, obviously, like, she took Gideon because Gideon's her grandson, kind of, it was a means to an end to get her son back too. So, I mean, truth be told, this makes you wonder, does she even care about Gideon at all, even if he is family? Like, when it's all said and done, like, when she gets her family back, what does that mean? Does that mean you get rid of Belle? What about Henry? He is your great-great-grandson. Not your great-great-grandson, he's your great-grandson. I had one extra great there, sorry. So, I mean, it's something like that I'm just curious about. Like, what is her ultimate goal when it comes to family? But obviously, like, getting back to it, like, this episode was all about, like, you know, basically Emma was never like, it's all kind of acting upon this, her fears and her insecurities is obviously how the Black Fairy attacks her, because it's like for Emma her greatest fear is like doing this alone, being alone again. She spent so much of her life alone, and she's afraid to ever kind of to lose everything that she cares, lose everything and everyone that she cares about, and in that moment just like go back to the way things were before. Because Henry actually talks to her and she's like, the fact of the matter is like, there's like a little recording from the beginning of the episode and everything, and it's like she doesn't like listening to it because it reminds her of a time where she felt like she couldn't do anything because she was so alone. And because of stuff like that, the fact is that she couldn't do anything because she was alone on such a small scale. Anytime anything big came up, she always ran away. She used the example of Henry. She's like, but the fact of the matter is, it's like, obviously you found your way back to me and you've helped me reunite with my family. Like, you've helped make my family grow, you know, and she'll always be always love it and be indebted to Henry for what he did. Like, he brought them together as well as their entire family. Like, if it wasn't for Henry, they wouldn't be where they are now. He wouldn't have the huge family that she has now. I mean, she'd probably in all likelihood be all alone, and that's super sad when you actually think about it like that. But for Emma, like, obviously, like, she couldn't use her magic because obviously just her confidence was shaken. Like I said, the Black Fairy knows where to strike because that's always been like that's been always a sore spot in her heart for Emma, is knowing that. So she was willing to just give up her heart. She's like, just take my heart. You can go. Just leave my friends and family alone. Just leave them alone. You can just take my heart and do what you want with it. But the Black Fairy finally gets her heart and is about to squeeze it, but she can't. Because it, once again, kind of going back to what I brought up, like the songs and stuff, like they were all there to protect her, which is like the fact that she couldn't even crush her heart. And Emma used her magic and everything to kind of free everyone from the potion that kind of froze everyone. Like, granted, like I said, we never saw Rumpel for the rest of the episode, so we don't know if he actually has something up his sleeve or not. Like, where is Belle and Gideon? Were they in town? Were they actually outside of this? Like, will they be affected by the spell that was kind of enacted at the end of the episode? Because, I mean, obviously there's the whole wedding reception and stuff like that, and it's just like, overall, just a beautiful moment, just dancing and singing, and it's just everyone together like that. And I mean, like, it's such a beautiful moment, immediately ruined by the fact is that the curse is being enacted. I'm very curious to see what exactly this new curse looks like. It kind of heavily reminds, like, I saw glimpses. I won't say anything. I guess it's spoilerish, but like I'll go ahead and say it because I caught glimpses of it. It seems like it's going to be kind of like a reverse, instead of like, oh, like you're stuck in Storybrooke without your memories of the past. It seems like it's probably more like, it's probably going to be like a nightmare scenario, because the way the Black Fairy put it, it's like, oh yeah, the fact of the matter is you're going to wish you had like let me kill you or something like that. So I'm thinking, like, from what I saw, like, either it's going to be a situation where it's like they're all stuck in the enchanted forest type of situation, stuck playing out these respective roles or something like that, or maybe it's a thing where it's like, oh, you're basically each one. Maybe it's like an individualized situation where everyone is kind of trapped in their own personal hell type of situation, their own personal nightmares and demons that they have to face. I don't know. Like overall, like, a very good episode. I love, especially the musical aspects. It's like it always makes you wonder, like, how much like time goes into this. Obviously, the practicing, the songs, obviously, like the choreography and stuff like that. Aha, I said that word right. If you don't know, like, I always struggle saying that word all the time. Notice how I didn't say it twice because, like, I said it. 95%. I kind of still flubbed on it a little bit because I could hear it and I was like pausing. Not the point. But I also appreciate the fact that the musical aspect, like, I was wondering about that. Like, it's not what I expected, but it was still good. I really liked it nonetheless. But I like the fact is that it was integrated into the story like that. It's not like just like, like I thought it was going to be a scenario where it's just like present day and everyone's just caught up in music. Like, I thought it would be kind of like almost like what if situation, but it's like, no, it played a part in the past. So, still, like I said, implemented very nicely. And obviously, like, the big message of being like, the fact is that even if you think you are alone, you're never alone. Because basically for Emma, it instilled her to be like, technically my family was with me the entire time. Granted, they don't remember all the songs and everything, but like, even throughout her entire life, her family was there in some shape or form, living in those songs. And not just them, everyone else within the Enchanted Forest. I mean, probably it makes you wonder, did that include Regina or not? Because, I mean, I appreciate the fact that Regina was, like, adamant of being, like, she wanted to make this the perfect day. She wanted to kind of deal with the Black Fairy's curse and everything. Because it's like, I ruined, the Charming's wedding. She's like, I don't want to do that to Emma, too. So, like I said, I'm very curious to see, like, what is her ultimate goal? I mean, obviously, her ultimate goal is to destroy Emma, but like, what's beyond that? Like, what does it mean to have her family? And is Rumple really a bad guy? Like, I'm still waiting for him to be like, Mother, you thought, like, I was just trying to get close to you so that I can defeat you. It's like, it wasn't the savior that's supposed to defeat you. It's me. Possibly that being the case. I don't know, because next week is the season finale, because it's a 2-hour season finale, which I didn't realize the end of the season was catching up that quickly. I should have known, because like the seasons are always like 23 episodes, but I guess in my brain I didn't realize what number episode this was. So I am hopeful because they said the word season finale, so that makes me think there might be a little bit more to. I mean, we will have to see like what goes down in that episode. I mean, because obviously this show's pretty good about setting up like a cliffhanger season finale. So yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I don't think any season has ever been clear cut of like, yeah, that there's nothing brewing on the brewing, off in the distance or whatever. So. Also, side note, we still don't know where Blue is. Like, the last time we saw Blue was last episode. And that's when Fiona had her. That's to that extent, but we don't know beyond that. Like, maybe that's what that whole black pixie dust soul situation was all about. It's because she ended up getting whatever she needed out of Blue to help her do that. Because, like, her plans are already set back because Zelena sacrificed her magic. So it's like, how does she accumulate all that dark pixie dust like that? I mean, where there's a will, there's a way, even for bad guys and stuff like that. So that's a very good episode, and very interested to see what goes down in the season finale. The ultimate battle of good versus evil, the final battle, and what that means for everyone, and how this will all turn out. And now moving on to this week's episode of American Gods. A very good episode, also very confusing. It's still a situation where it's like we're still not knowing completely everything. Obviously, with the concept of the show and everything behind it, you kind of fill in the blanks yourself, but obviously the audience is kind of like in the shadows, like, position of like, okay, what's going on here? Shadow's starting to realize, okay, things are weird going on. Like, he's like, I don't know if I'm crazy, is the world crazy? Which then you have like Mr. Wednesday being like, at the end of the day, it's like there's two options in front of you. There are two valid options. Either you're crazy or you just say, hey, the world is crazy. Either way, pick one, So, but always take your time. Don't, rush into these type of things. But obviously this episode was like about Shadow kind of moving on. He packed up all of Laura's stuff into her boxes and stuff like that. And he looked at like the box that had like her, like the stuff that was with her when she died. Ended up stumbling across her phone, ended up looking through some text between her and Robbie, and lo and behold, a dick pic. It's like, it's cemented then and there. It's like, yep, she was having an affair. And even like Mr. Wednesday brought it up, but the fact of the matter is, it's like he ends up kind of almost trying to put a positive spin on it. And he's like, I know I'm going to say something that's going to make you want to punch me, but kind of take the time not to, think not to do that. And he's like, basically saying like the fact of the matter is the circumstances around, obviously we found out how exactly what went down when Laura died. It's like, yeah, so you're only obligated to feel bad for a certain amount of time. I mean, and like I said, that's a very conflicting feeling. Like, obviously you loved her, you cared about her. Obviously he goes back to their house and it's like, oh, there's like a welcome home shadow, but it's like, what does that even mean? The fact is you died cheating on me, and good for all, like, who knows how long you were cheating on me with my best friend too. And it's like, it leaves you very conflicted, but I guess this whole opportunity with Mr. Wednesday gives him that opportunity to go, hey, let's go out there. I mean, granted, I'm skipping over the fact is, like, because we still never got 100% of the answer about that whole situation of, like, what went down last episode. They refer to him as, like, the technical boy, the dude that sent those guys to beat up, like, Shadow in the whole lynching situation last episode. What Mr. Wednesday's not really giving him any answers, but the fact of the matter is he did say something though. He's like, I do want you to know, even though it might not seem like I'm mad, I'm like super mad, it's like I am. Because any attack against you is an attack on me, and I am formulating a plan, I guess, to basically strike back. But there was a moment where Shadow was kind of in, obviously he was gathering up stuff for Mr. Wednesday, and he ends up walking into a store, and he's walking past some TVs, and then Lucille Ball from I Love Lucy is talking to him through the TV. And at first, I had to keep rewinding it because it took a while, but I was like, wait a minute, is that? I was like, there's no way that's Gillian Anderson. I was like, is it? I happened to look at the credits at the end of it, so freaking Gillian Anderson. That's super amazing. I was like, that looks like her. But nevertheless, it's kind of interesting. She said something in the conversation that kind of took me back for a second. She was like, oh yeah, he underestimated you. It's like, what does that mean? Are you, because like, even Shadow was like, who did that? Who did that to that lynching group? It's like, so are you saying that was Shadow who did that? How and what? Like, the fact of it, like I said, because even like the conversation has come up because later on there's some sisters that are talking. One of the older sisters is talking to Mr. Wednesday, and she's like, wait a minute, he doesn't know about our world. It's like, yeah, he's like, I'm easing him into it because it's like, I mean, granted, saying all the things and experiencing everything, he's not like, he knows like things aren't right, but it's like, I guess in some ways he's just kind of like trying to rationalize. Like, he even says it himself. It's like, there's a dude that was talking about rewriting reality. Was he messing with my head? Are you messing with my head? It's like I said, life's kind of turned upside down for Shadow. Like, the world isn't what he thought it was. Thought it is, so. But that conversation made me think that maybe he did do that. Like, I guess I mean, obviously there's a lot more to Shadow, because I mean, if there wasn't, Mr. Wednesday wouldn't be taking an interest in him like he does. Also, what's up with that whole scene of, like, obviously he picked up those dandelions and he blew on, and then all of a sudden they went to the sky. Obviously there's a storm brewing in the sky, and you see like electricity kind of run through them. So I'm guessing that's Mr. Wednesday kind of doing stuff on the side, preparing himself. So, and side note, like I brought up before, he's Odin and everything. But it's like, is that a like charm thing? Is that a thing for Odin? I don't really know. Like I said, my mythology is like super like very minute. But it's like, he's like, oh, the fact of the matter is, oh, like, I got the whole charm thing. It's like, yeah, it can be learned, but it's like, is that something he naturally has or something? I don't know. But obviously, like the conversation he had with Lucille Ball is the fact of the matter is that, I mean, she seems to be kind of like the reason why she exists on TV is because it's like, that's her altar in her sense of like what people sacrifice to is their time and attention. That's what she feeds off of. That's what people who kind of quote unquote worship her like feed to her. So, but it seems like obviously she's taking an interest in Shadow. She's basically like, hey, Shadow, come work for me. The fact of the matter is, it seems like she's like, it's kind of something similar to what the technical boy is saying. Like, hey, like his time is up. Like, Mr. Wednesday's time is up. This is kind of our time, and that's kind of what she's kind of lamenting. Like she's kind of pointing out too. Is like the fact of the matter is he's not even yesterday anymore. We're today and tomorrow's tomorrow, and so on and so forth. Kind of we are the future type of thing. And she's like, I don't want to see you get hurt, Shadow. Like, the fact of the matter is, it's like, because she was actually showing concern for him. Obviously, she has her own plans, but like I said, we're still in the dark about what everyone else has planned. Like, what it is Mr. Wednesday is really doing. Obviously, like, he's bringing other people into all this. Maybe that includes Billiquest, which we got a little bit of another look at her still continuously eating people. But you do see at one point she's laying in bed and like there is a tear in her. Like I don't think she wants to do that. I think it's a situation of like she was kind of cursed to made that way, or maybe it's something. Maybe it's a sense of like she think eating people doesn't fill that hole in her, whatever it may be. There was a point where she ends up looking in a display case and there's like these jewels and everything. And it almost seems like obviously you see kind of a silhouette of her body forming underneath it. So was that something that in the past kept her restrained in a sense? Like the way she kind of looked at it, like it wasn't looking at like fondness, it looked kind of almost like hate. So I'm wondering if it was something that kind of felt like it shackled her and just kept her kind of like, maybe this is kind of like some of her first times being free, able to do what she wants to. And maybe she's still in service to someone else, that, she's stuck in a position that she can't quite escape, that freedom is out of her grasp. So maybe she's doing the whole eating thing, not necessarily 100% for herself. Maybe it's for someone who's kind of ordering her to, or maybe she is doing it herself. Maybe she's doing it to try and gather strength to take back her freedom. I don't know. Like, just like I said, the show is leaving a lot of stuff to be pretty vague of being like, you can kind of throw out your own thoughts and stuff about things currently. But there was the mention of the, hammer that the moment he mentioned, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go get my hammer. I was like, Mule Near? Which I'm not really sure about that whole situation, because it seems like obviously it belongs to Chernobog, played by Peter Stormare. I'd already seen him pop up in the previews and stuff like that, but nevertheless, like obviously he has this whole cow killing situation, and then like what I'm trying to figure out is like, is it because he brings up his brother on an occasion? But I'm curious, like, is that actually Mule Near, or is it like a situation where Chernobog is actually quote unquote Mule Near? And because he's like, oh, the things I've done with this hand. So it's like, maybe in this situation, it's like, it's more of a metaphor. It's not an actual, like, the hammer he uses is an extension of him, that he himself is Mr. Wednesday's hammer. And he so happens to use a hammer. Why Mr. Wednesday refers to him as a hammer? Like, it's like, is it like while he's here on this world, does he take on the form of a human being when in actuality he is the hammer? And it's just like that actual hammer that Chernobog holds is kind of like a personification of himself. I keep, like I said, just random thoughts I'm having. Apparently, Shadow's future doesn't look that good because the sisters kind of read his future. And they read his fortune. It's like, oh, is it that good? Oh, they're saying like, oh, he's like, oh, what is it? They're like, oh yeah, you're going to live a happy, full life. You're going to have many children. Just kind of like, And he's like, wow, it's that bad, huh? They're like, is there any goodness? It's like, they're like, your mom died of cancer. And he's like, yeah. It's like, well, you won't die of cancer. It's like, okay, that's very reassuring. But basically, obviously Mr. Wednesday needs Chernobog, but he doesn't want to go, because he's kind of tired of all of this. Like, Mr. Wednesday's like, oh, this could be like, either this is life or death. Like either we win or we die, but either way we'll have glory. And he's like, I'm tired of glorious. It's just like, leave me alone. All the things I've done with this hand. People don't know me, but you know me. The things I've done with these hands. He's just tired. It's like, let me just stay here, do my business, and just leave me alone. Ends up with Shadow challenging him to a checker game. I mean, they're just casually playing at first, but then it turns into a bet. If he wins, he will go with Mr. Wednesday, no questions asked, and do what he needs him to do. Because basically, it's like the other people, everyone that's gathered, is because Mr. Wednesday is gathering them for whatever it is that he's got planned. But he's like, the fact is, if he has Chernobog there, like, everyone will kind of submit, everyone will stay on their best behavior, because he's kind of the, like, rules with an iron fist type of situation, I think, where it's like, everyone recognizes his strength and is like, doesn't dare cross him. So the question is, like, is he trying to prepare an army for war because he knows the others are coming for him, trying to, obviously, as we've seen, take him down? Or is he just trying to talk to them included? Is he gathering everyone to be like, yo, you think I'm slipping, I don't deserve my throne anymore, well, you're dead and wrong type of thing? I mean, we'll see. But I mean, obviously, sadly, obviously at this point, Shadow's like, you know what, screw it. The world, maybe there's another world beneath the world that I know. Kind of, almost kind of pushing some kind of like Stranger Things, like, on the upside down world. Not necessarily, just kind of like there's another layer of life that we're not aware of, like, type of thing. So he accepts that and kind of goes along with the deal. But obviously, at the end of the episode, we see that he does lose, which means Chernobog will get to knock his brains out. It's like, and he's like, oh, it's sad because you're like, he actually likes Shadow. So whether that's going to be the case where it's like, oh, Shadow's totally dead. I mean, I don't, obviously not, but I mean, we won't really know until next episode, like, how they will get out of a particular situation. I mean, I'm sure, like, Mr. Wednesday is going to keep it out of this, because it's like, what Shadow does is Shadow's business. It's like, yeah, you're under my employment and other things like that, and obviously I don't want you dead, but it's like, hey, you make your own choices and you kind of have to live with them. So there, I purposely want to just go ahead and save this for last and just, like, talk about the rest of the episode first. But the beginning of the episode was very interesting, because obviously you had, like, slaves. There's, like, early days of slavery where they're being brought to America. There is a slave calling to a god named Anansi, played by Orlando Jones. And he did a very interesting thing where he's like, oh, the fact of the matter is you don't even realize your situation. You're calling out to me to help you and everything. But the fact of the matter is you don't even know what your situation is. You don't even know what it means to be referred to as black. And this, and basically bringing up race issues and stuff like that. He's like, you think you're in a bad situation now? You're going to be screwed over another 100 years from now. And then even after that, you're still going to get screwed over. And even after that, still screwed over. And so it's like, interesting. I'm like, so that puts in perspective either, like, because I forget, like, to think about the fact is they're gods and everything, so they're omnipotent. But the fact of the matter is it like they can time travel, or is it specifically they're omnipotent and they kind of see all of time at once? So then again, that puts into, I mean, you're a god, so you can kind of do whatever you want to, but it's like, how do you decide when and where to exist at any point? Like, I guess time is always, like, you have, like, a full, like, 360 interaction with time, and, so, like I said, that, or it is straight up time travel. I mean, either way, I mean, both can kind of coexist at the same time. So, I would assume. So, that was just kind of an interesting thing. But he was basically like, yeah, you're going to die. You're already dead anyway. So, it's like, why not take this time to burn this ship down? It's like, make your sacrifice mean something. So, it's like, are you saying that just because it's like, oh, sacrifice yourself because of, like, the stand up and fight? You're going to be doomed to this reality. And it's like, you don't want to be doomed to that, It's like, I mean, he even said kind of something in a very morbid way of being like, yeah, you may not like this, but I mean, at the very least, do note that the tobacco that you're picking for free, eventually is going to kill their ancestors from cancer much, much later on. It's like, wow, I mean, obviously he's being very blunt about it. He's very passionate about it. But at the same time, it's like, he's like talking about the fact is, yeah, this guy gets it. Like, anger. Anger is the only time you can actually do something, is when you have anger. So it's like, it's hard to say whether he's actually emptying them up, because it's like, oh yeah, like, fight back, stand up and fight. Or is it because it's like, yeah, stand up, fight, sacrifice yourself, die for me so I can, like, suck in all that energy from you dying, part of his, worship and everything like that. Especially, it was kind of creepy because, like, obviously we saw the like, tarantula looking spider. I don't know if it's actually a tarantula because I don't know spiders. But you see the spider at first, and then you see him pop up later on, but it's like, and then at one point when he's talking to him, like, his head actually turns into the spider, and then later on you see the spider in a small form crawling away. So it's like, I'm guessing, I wonder, are we going to get that every episode? Because it happened in the first episode when we had the whole thing about, I would assume they're Vikings, getting stuck on that island. So it's, obviously we didn't get the monologue, but it's kind of told from, like, oh yeah, it's written down, and then it's kind of like entries in a book. Granted, who is the dude that was writing it in the first episode? I mean, I assume it's still him in this episode too, but I don't know. I'm very curious to see will we get those throughout the entire season or not. Those are very interesting. Well, I guess it's kind of setting up other people that we might be meeting in the future, or just kind of setting the tone for the episode or something. I mean, granted, I'm not really sure what that's supposed to correlate to, but I mean, I guess we'll see soon enough. Like I said, very good episode. It's just a situation of, like, maybe if I read the books, I have a lot more context. I mean, at the same time, if I read the books, a lot of this would be spoiled for me. So I'm kind of okay with that, I guess. It's just like, I like trying to figure things out ahead of time, and also, be surprised when it's like, oh yeah, Michael, you were almost leaning there. Your thoughts were kind of in the right place, or like, no, Michael, you were completely wrong, you idiot. So, I mean, we'll just kind of have to wait and see where on that scale I fall. So. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.